What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, let's do a little mailbag. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered here on the show. Mailbag question. What do you think a realistic season is for the Bears? I feel like with the weapons and Ben Johnson being the next Shanahan has a high ceiling. Caleb is obviously talented, and they fixed the line. Could they win 11 games and win the division if everyone beats each other up? I would say win the division feels really, really strong. I think it's fair to say best case scenario. Defense should be good, but it's a new coordinator. The defense was good last year with Eberflus. Uh, so you get a new voice. I'm sure you get some new terminology. You just get some new ideas, thoughts. But listen, they got good players on defense. Offensively, also new. Everything's new. So there's just a transition process given how much pressure is on them. But if you just say let's say they're way better the second half of the season, I think 10, 11 games making the playoffs is very much a fair expectation. I think if you tell me that the Bears win the division, Ben Johnson is 100% the coach of the year. I just don't see a scenario. If you tell me right now the Bears win the NFC North, I just don't see how you could have a better coaching job. I mean, they were atrocious last year. I mean, they were. It's a lot of the same players. So I know they've added a couple new offensive linemen, but they're still going to depend on DJ Moore. They're still going to depend on Caleb. Obviously, the defensive personnel, their star players haven't changed. So 10 and 11. If he won 11 games, you could argue that even if they were like the 6th seed, coach of the year. So I think that's fair. Realistic, I would say 8-9. I think it's a big transit. One, the division's really hard. Detroit's going to be healthier to start the season. The Packers, fair or not, kind of own you. The Minnesota Vikings roster is just better, and they've won before. That's the other thing. These other teams have won, right? These other teams have won and been winning. The Packers have been winning. The Lions have been winning. The Vikings have won 2 of the last 3 years. One, So I think you're asking a bunch of guys who you have a ton of talents and some new guys who have definitely won just to now start winning, and that's a pretty big step to take. Question for the bag. First off, congratulations on the pregnancy. My wife's pregnant. Breaking news. Put it out on social media, but yeah, she's been pregnant for a little while. So 12 weeks, I guess starting the second trimester, I think is what they say. So congratulations to me for not really doing much, but swimmers can swim. Other than that, she's way harder for her. Appreciate that. Second, what are your NFL conference championship games? Predictions. As a Bucs fan, I feel confident the boys can get rolling at the end and can lead us to glory. It's a good question. I would say when you look at the top of the NFC, you would say the Eagles should be the favorite. They are the favorite. They deserve to be the favorite. Their team's stacked. Then there's the group of the Lions are pretty damn good. Question marks, new coordinators. Vikings pretty damn good. Coaches never won a playoff game, new quarterback. Packers, what's their health situation? Who is Jordan Love? The Rams, we like the Rams. We like McVay. It's not like they've been winning 13, 14 games. They won 10 games last year. And you look at it statistically, they weren't as good of a defense as the way they've talked about. Now, one thing, the comp I've made, I remember watching Khalil Mack's rookie season. I think he had 4.5 sacks. But if you watched him, he was good. You're like, don't let the numbers fool you. This guy's coming. And then over the next couple of years, he was coming. And I think that's Jared Verse. So it's like Jared Verse this year, is he one of the best players on defense in the league? Because that kind of changes you. Stafford's health is pretty big. The 49ers, what's their deal? So I think, yeah, I think it's pretty wide open. I really do. The Eagles have a new offensive coordinator. The Eagles have 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years with Jalen Hurts. So that would be the Commanders. How does it come together with Tunzel, with Debo? Do they figure out the McLaurin situation? I think there's a lot of good teams in the NFC. It's kind of just how, um, injuries obviously play a huge factor. I mean, that derailed the Lions' chances, right? It really did. How you're playing toward the end of the season. Look at the Rams last year. Obviously, the Washington. Do you get hot at the right time? Does your quarterback get hot? So it's what makes football pretty cool, right? Like I saw the Thunder have given out like $1 billion in the last week. Every human being alive is going to pick the Thunder next year, rightfully so. You have this core of young guys, their roster's loaded. And basketball's always kind of been like that. It's like, there's 3 or 4 teams that can win it. I mean, it's kind of the way it is. Maybe on a good year, 5 or 6. Like in the football, the Chiefs are going to have a year where they don't win in the playoffs, right? They're just going to have a year, second round, where they lose. It happened to Belichick and Brady. So the Bills, the Ravens, these other teams, the Chargers and the Broncos. I just saw Najee Harris had a little firework incident. I don't. Maybe I'm going to sound like the old guy. I used to love fireworks, firecrackers, like most young kids. Had a little pyro side. Once you get to a certain age, like I don't quite get it, and we have specific situations in football with JPP blowing off his hands. I just think the risk where I'm from, actually, around the Sacramento area, there was a firework because in California you can't sell like M80s and the good shit. There was a storage facility that somehow something went very wrong. I think this was last week, July 2nd or July 3rd, and it looked like, I mean, like a Middle East war. And 7 people are, I remember last I saw the story, were missing, aka dead. So I just, and I get it if you got young kids to do like some of the shitty fireworks to have a good time, but I, I just I just don't see the risk versus the reward. I don't quite understand it. My question is regarding the Niners. Obviously, Purdy signs the big deal this offseason, but since Kyle has been the head coach, they've never had a high end quarterback. They've been successful building a team around the quarterback, then paying the quarterback, then paying the quarterback doesn't screw it up. My question to you is, what does Kyle value more? High end quarterback play or focus on drafting and developing the full roster? Do you think he trusts Purdy to get the team into the playoffs, or does he think he needs draft capital to help build a team around his quarterback again? Uh, I mean, Kyle is so scarred from that Trey Lance situation where he tried to like manipulate and create a small school like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson guy who's a third stringer. I'm honestly shocked still in the NFL. So Kyle thinks Brock Purdy's really good. Listen, Brock Purdy is good. He's somewhere between 8 to 12. On given weeks, he can play like one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and he can have weeks where he's not as good. And he has some flaws, but he's a really good starting quarterback. And if you do a good job building your team, you can win with him. I've said it forever. Like, look at the Eagles and the Lions. They're paying their quarterbacks a ton of money. Nobody views either guy like a top 5 quarterback. Nobody. Jalen Hurts last year, halfway through the season, people are like, what the hell's going on? What's wrong with our passing game? Brandon Graham's like, yeah, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts hate each other. Just kidding. Jared Goff, people are like, I mean, he's got some limitations. You got to protect him. But no one views either guy as top 5 quarterback. Jalen Hurts had played like a top 5 quarterback the last 2 weeks of the season against the Commanders and then in the Super Bowl. But in terms of like, no one ranks him in the top 5, and he makes a ton of money. They build the team around him. This is football. Joe Montana played on some of the most talented teams in the history of the league. You got to do a good job building around him. Brock Purdy's good enough if you build the team. I've said forever, the pressure is on John and Kyle now. Brock Purdy's showing you who he is. If your team's good, he can win. Won a lot of games. Going back to college. Guy's a winning player. Is he Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? No, he's not. Joe Burrow? We know that. Who's comparing him to that? First take? I don't know. So yeah, I mean, they're all in on Purdy. They're no drafting. Purdy fails, Kyle's gonna be done with the 49ers. All right, folks, this is insane. For the first time ever, we've got a full-blown all-women's boxing mega event going down in New York City. 2 title fights, same night. Let's go. And if you're like me and love the action, DraftKings Sportsbook is where it's at. We're talking Katie Taylor,
versus Amanda Serrano. The trilogy fight. Absolute legends. Katie's putting together her super lightweight belt on the line. And you know Serrano's bringing the heat. But don't sleep on the co-main event. Alicia the Bomb Bumgardner. Explosive power is taken on the undefeated WBA interim champ, Jennifer Miranda. That one's going to be fireworks, baby. And if you've never bet with DraftKings, it's super simple. Just pick who you think's going to win. It's that easy. And check this out. If you're new to DraftKings, throw down $5 and boom, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly. How wild is that? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use the promo code JOHN, that's JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-9-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsible on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus or eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
In the NFL, do head coaches spend much time coaching up individual players? Or are they mainly interacting with the coaching staff and allowing them to micromanage the players? I can't speak for every coach. I haven't seen, if you go around the league, I've never seen John Harbaugh at a practice. I've never seen Sean Payton at a practice. So I've never seen these guys at practice. But in my experience, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Jim Harbaugh, some of the Raiders guys, Dennis Allen, Jack Del Rio, I think it changes, right? If you are a former player like Harbaugh or Jack Del Rio, linebacker, sometimes they are just going to be inclined to especially if they're not the play caller, to gravitate toward their position. And then they kind of give them tips. But the CEO head coach, his main gig is kind of like, which is pretty clear, the overseer. Now, they talk to individual players, but I think a lot of their job, when they see things they don't like, are kind of dictating that to the assistant coach or dictating that to the coordinator. And then you get guys like, if you're Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay or Mike McDonald in Seattle, like the coordinator of, even though you're the head coach, you're the coordinator, you spend much more time coaching up individual players of what you want. Because you lead, like Travis Kelce talks, watching the podcast, talks a lot about like Andy Reid running the installs. So if you're running the installs of a play, all the guys are looking at you, you are coaching them up on what you want them to do. So I think it's very specific. A guy like, I'm trying to think of an example. Who'd be a coach? Tomlin or Harbaugh, either the Harbaugh brothers, Sirianni. They're not installing the plays, right? But they are active in meetings. They're obviously active at practice. It's probably somewhere that leans much more to dictating it to your coaches than it is if you are the defensive coordinator of the team, right? If you're Ben Johnson, you're coaching it up. You are spending a lot of time with Caleb, with what you want, where Rome or DJ are breaking off the route. It's like you are dictating. Like you watch Kyle practice, like he's telling who to go where. Maybe not at practice as much, because in the NFL, high school or even college, you probably spend more time at practice specifically teaching. I think in the NFL, you're trying to rattle off, especially in training camp. I think it happens more in the season when you have less guys. But in training camp, it's a lot of just rapid fire, run the plays. Maybe if something really screws up, you run it again. And then you teach in the walkthrough in the meeting room. I think in the regular season, there's a lot less players. In training camp, there's 90 guys out there. So there's a lot going on. Regular season, you kind of have a decent idea who's going to play, who's not. And, you have a really good idea. And then you kind of can dictate at practice. The media is not allowed out there. You're installing specific plays against specific teams. So I think it depends on the time of year. OTAs too. Like there's a lot of like, that's where most of the teaching from a standpoint of things are a little slower. Once training camp comes, like you better know the plays, or one, especially if you're a young guy, you're just going to get lapped. So I think there are a lot of variables. That's a good question. I think it's a hard question to ask, and it's very, very specific toward the team, the coach, the scheme, his role, the age of the players. It's like some of these teams too. If you have, what would be an example here? Like if you have an older player that's been on the team for 7, 8 years, 10 years, he spends a lot of time. If you went to a Niner practice, you would watch George Kittle or Kyle Juszczyk talking to a lot of the younger players at training camp, kind of coaching them up, giving them tips what to do, because Kyle's just like next play, next group. This is what the coordinators do. So I'm just using the Niners example because I've spent the most time at their practices. You come off the field if you're a young linebacker and the threes jump on, you're the twos. Like Fred Warner or Greenlaw would go over you and maybe probably talk to you. So they do a lot of coaching, the veteran players, and that's true for whoever your team is, right? If you're a young wide receiver and you're on the Eagles, you can AJ Brown can tell you like, hey, they like this route to be broken. Jalen likes this to be broken off at 7 yards, not 8, even though the teaching point is technically 8. Stuff like that. Packer fan, where do you think Matt LaFleur in the coaching ranks in coaching? As a Packer fan, he has moments that are genius, and then moments that leave us all scratching our heads with game management and decision making, even in the NFC North. Am I overreacting? Yeah, I mean, no one's going to put him in the top 5, but he's better than, and he's proven a lot than I don't know, the majority of the league. Right? There are 32 coaches, so he's easily better than half. Like cut off the 16. Now we're 15 on. I think he's probably closer to like 8 or 9 than he is 15. And like you said, he has had moments where went into Dallas and beat the shit out of the Cowboys on the road. Last year was tough. I mean, the quarterback wasn't playing that well. Injuries in that Eagle game. I don't know what he could have done. He's had some moments in the past that he would like back. Obviously, the field goal against Tampa, but I think he's pretty good. He's. I think if you just ask a casual fan, Matt LaFleur or Kevin O'Connell, I have used this as an example. Most people, I think the initial Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, Kevin O'Connell's had 2 playoff games where he's had like 13 and 15 win teams, 14 win teams, and he can't win them. Kevin O'Connell lost to the Giants a couple years ago. Daniel Jones at home. You could say the Rams loss isn't as crazy, and I'd agree. But like he lost to the Giants. Happened. People think I talk shit about Kevin O'Connell. I'm not anti Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a good coach. But my point is simply that I think everyone listening and talking, the overwhelming majority, if you had to just pick one, most people would just gravitate toward Kevin O'Connell. Could be wrong. This is my gut feel of just kind of have a pretty good beat on people. Kevin O'Connell over LaFleur. Are we sure? Where do you think Keenan Allen ends up? I think a lot of these guys, older players that have been making a lot of coin for a long period of time, really struggle when their arrows kind of pointed down. They're older. Right around free agency when they're available, people's lowball them. Like if you're used to making 99.999% of people can't relate to this. But if you've been used to making 15 million, probably pretty hard when someone's like, we're just our best offer's 3. It's like you've been used to making 500 grand and you still think you're good at your job and someone offers you 100, you're like, oh, I'm not taking that gig. I think that happens to a lot of these older players. That most of the offers during the offseason relative to what they were making is really low. So it's a humbling time. Now, they can hope there are injuries, someone gets hurt, and all of a sudden people are desperate. So that 3 million that you're being offered maybe goes to 8 or 9. But if that doesn't happen, I think you could be in a little trouble. So I don't know. I think more than they ever tell is a lot about money. Hi John, what's your opinion on Garrett Wilson? I've seen people rank him anywhere between the top 5 to out of the top 20. Keep up the great work. Uh, I think I think more than any other position, wide receivers, a lot of stuff's out of their control. So when you play in chaotic offenses, in chaotic organizations, Jerry Rice played with Joe Montana and Steve Young. Randy Moss early on in his career had good quarterbacks, and he went Tom Brady. So good when a good wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald looked pretty good when he had Carson Palmer or Kurt Warner throwing the ball. So when you're a very talented wide receiver and you have a good quarterback situation, you're going to look unreal. Antonio Brown for 6 years had Roethlisberger slinging him the pill. Tyreek Hill, in the peak of his powers, had Patrick Mahomes throwing him the rock. So if you put Garrett Wilson with Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I think he'd be pretty unreal. Last year, I was expecting actually his numbers to not look this good. He had 100 catches for 1,100 yards. I think he's a top 10 talent in the league. If you had a draft from scratch, would he crack the top 5? Probably not. But I think once we got 6 to 10 range, when you factor in his age, if you think about it, like Jamar Chase, or Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. I think Tyreek's kind of trending the other way. Let's look at some of these. Let's just look at the top receivers in the league because I'm. So you would have Jefferson, Chase. I would have CeeDee Lamb. I have those 3 guys. I'd feel pretty confident about those guys. Then you get this group of like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Would I rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown or Garrett Wilson? Well, I think obviously in the scheme, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he's a stud. But like I think if you put Garrett Wilson on the Lions, nothing would dip. And I think if you gave non-Lions, like every team in the league, you could pick one of the 2 guys. From a talent standpoint, I think you would take Garrett Wilson. Now, there's stuff that St. Brown brings to the table. Like, I know for a fact I can go to war with that guy. Like Drake London. I would take Garrett Wilson over Drake London. Brian Thomas Jr., 1 year in, I think he's going to be pretty good. Malik Neighbors, I'd probably take Malik Neighbors. But again, like this is, yeah, I think he's a top 10 wide receiver in the league. With all the chaos and realignment in college football, what are your thoughts on adopting regulation-style conferences? That way, we can transition to the NFL of 2 main conferences while still allowing schools to compete at their respective levels. Relegation's never happening. I know people love it in European soccer, but it is just not happening in pro sports ever. Because if I'm spending the amount of money I have to spend and it doesn't go well, okay, we fucked up, but I still spent billions of dollars. It's never happened. In college football, the same way. They're just none of these. It's a partnership. Now, you could argue that Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Penn State carry the Big Ten, and that's true. You could argue that LSU, Bama, Georgia, carry the SEC in terms of ratings, in terms of whatever, and you could add other teams there too. But it's ultimately a partnership. And are the Cowboys, are the Packers, are the Niners, are the Eagles more important than the Cardinals, the Jags, and the Titans? Sure. But part of the power of the NFL is the group partnership. So it gets brought up a lot. It's just not happening. We all have a bunch of credit cards, connections to hotels or airlines or a number of things. And I don't think we realize that those points and miles, they lose value when they collect dust. So think about this, a credit card with rewards that actually grows. Introducing the Gemini credit card. And with this credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. So every time you go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you go out for a night on the town, you earn instant rewards deposited straight into your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Go to Gemini.com/John to learn more and start earning today. Terms apply. Again, visit Gemini.com/JOHN now. Terms apply. The Gemini credit card is issued by WebBank. In order to qualify for the intro $200 crypto bonus, your application must be approved by June 30th, 2025. And spend $3,000 your first 90 days. Terms apply. Some exclusions apply to instant rewards in which rewards are deposited when the transaction posts. This content is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risks. For more details on rates, fees, and other Gemini credit card terms, see rates and fees. Go to Gemini.com/John, John, to learn more and start earning today. Okay, question for the mailbag. First of all, congrats. Appreciate it. Also, I heard someone earlier in a different podcast mention why people don't talk about the UFC. Something that shocked me way more is the big talk shows don't talk about big golf events like the Masters. I was shocked when I saw no one talked about Rory winning, when I'm pretty sure the average 12 million views on Sunday, and Monday, no one even said a single pod or peep about it. Kind of just blew my mind. The number of eyeballs is way bigger than UFC, and still no one said a single thing. I don't know what shows you're alluding to. If you think about the TV shows, I think Colin definitely led his television show that day, Fox Sports 1, talking about it. 100%. I remember watching. So maybe you're talking about some of the ESPN shows. Maybe those people don't watch. I also think we overvalue. It's like, well, so Stephen A. Smith, who cares? 500,000 people watch his show. Pardon my take. I don't know what the number is, but it's dwarfs that. They definitely led with that. I did a podcast on it. I mean, I think a lot of people did. So I think if you just rely on, like, what are the TV shows? This isn't 2004. I bet a lot of YouTube shows did. But Pat McAfee did. So I just think that legacy media, a lot of those people don't watch golf. If it's not Tiger, they don't care. They would rather talk about LeBron versus Jordan, and that's fine. I mean, that's what their business model is. But I think sometimes we overvalue, like, who cares? Their audience, relative to some of these other audiences that are talking about it, aren't even close to as big. So I also, one of the reasons ESPN, for example, talks about UFC is they are in business with UFC, right? I'm pretty sure ESPN Plus has UFC stuff. Dana did a deal with ESPN years ago. I don't know how long that deal goes. I'm not super dialed in, but I know, like, that's why they promote it. No different than, like, Fox Sports. Colin likes soccer. Obviously likes soccer a lot, but one reason they talk about it, like, they have contracts to do soccer, World Cup. Like, Alexi Lalas comes on, they host the Gold Cup. Like, you kind of talk what your programming is. I think that plays a part too. If ESPN had the Masters, they would do more master stuff in terms of Saturday and Sunday. I know they play a role on Thursday and Friday. But I'm with you. There's not a basketball game this year. I guess Game 7 did. Game 7 got 16 million people. But it was before Game 7, it was easily the lowest rated NBA Finals in like 3 decades. Like 7-8 million people watching. But basketball, in terms of, like, you name whoever is very good on the internet, does very well. You can run businesses based on the algorithms with basketball stuff. Harder to do that with golf. So I understand, like, for this one time, who even cares? It all the stuff comes down to business. It really does. And the business is just like, how many people are watching? How much can we sell? How much money can we move based on what topics? Question for the bag. You recently said the Dolphins owner has serious interest in hiring Jim Harbaugh. The question is, do you think that Jim would be coaching the Dolphins right now instead of the Chargers if they had taken Herbert 5th overall in 2020 instead of Tua? That's a good question. I don't think Jim Harbaugh would coach Tua. So is your question, would if he was coaching the Dolphins, do you think that Jim Harbaugh would be? Yeah, maybe I think he would have. The Dolphins have gone after Jim multiple times, so it's not like a one-off situation. I think he would have been inclined to if if someone had Justin Herbert and he could coach their team, he would have. So yeah, I I think there's a decent chance. I don't think he would be the Chargers head coach if they did not have a good quarterback situation. And if you flip flop the two quarterbacks, I don't think Jim Harbaugh would take that job if Tua was their coach or quarterback. A quick question about Love and a second year regression. Warren Sharp put out a list of the third down incompletions due to receiver errors. And Green Bay led that statistic with 32.7%. Next was the Bengals at 18%. Jalen Hurts was around 8.5%, and Goff was at 7.5%. And Love was never truly 100% healthy last year, but still was a top 10 in all the metrics. Given that, if Green Bay is just league average, can we expect the Love and the offense to be dynamic? You guys know where I stand. I own stock. I think they're going to be good. If you tell me the Packers defense is good like it was last year, I think the Packers are a 12 or 13 win team. And if you win 13 games over the last decade, I bet you win your division, I don't know, 80% of the time. Like last year was abnormal, right? You had two teams with 14 wins in weeks. Now it's a little skewed because we've added a game, but you guys know what I mean. If you win 13 games, you get a pretty damn good chance to win your division, even if you're in a good division. So I think they're going to be good. We get a lot of Packer fans because I got another question. I I think the thing with Jordan Love is you also got to embrace what he is. Is he going to be a top 5 player in the league? Probably not. But his ceiling and his high end, which we didn't see as much last year as we did 2 years ago, is pretty high. And when you're not healthy and you don't have much experience, like it can be kind of rocky. And like you said, the receivers were just all over the map last year. But they always have a good offensive line. Jacobs is a stud. They do have a lot of bodies on offense. They just got to figure out which ones and like can they get their version of Jordy Nelson or Devontae to kind of come out of this group. Maybe it's the guy they just drafted. But to me, if their defense is good, like the team's going to be good. Appreciate the respect you give toward my Packers, but my question is at what point will you change your tune and become more critical? Love is one of the higher paid quarterbacks and is yet to take the next step. Our young wide receiver core that everyone hypes up hasn't been consistently reliable. We have some nice pieces scattered throughout the roster. I'm concerned about becoming the Steelers. Good enough to win during the regular season against the bottom half of the league, but never true contender for a championship. Your thoughts? Are you guys as good as you were from like 10 to 15? Of course not. Even though you only won one Super Bowl, you guys were legit Super Bowl contenders that 4 or 5 years. A couple years ago, when you lost to the Bucks, I thought that was your best team. I thought those 2 years with Rodgers when he was older, the year you lost to the Niners, like those were tough losses. But you were true Super Bowl contenders. You weren't a Super Bowl contender this year. Toward the end of the season, clearly. I do think you can be one this year, though. If you told me NFL teams were stocks, you can buy one of two stocks this upcoming year: the Packers or the Steelers. And whoever goes farther in the playoffs or just throughout the season, who has a better record and at the end of the year, whoever has progressed longer in the season, 10x is your money. And you're allowed to put down whatever you want. I would not hesitate to pick the Packers. Would not hesitate. So you guys are not the Steelers yet. I promise you that. What is the next disposable position in the NFL? When it comes to value that's going to be overlooked the way running back was. I think it's pretty clear right now safety is. Now safety has never had the value as corner or pass rusher, but I think we have to admit that certain teams didn't value linebacker like other teams. The Eagles are a good example. That their historic value in terms of what they would pay a linebacker was they would let a lot of guys walk. After Bond last year and the way this league is, who does that guy end up on a lot? Running backs and tight ends. Well, what is the league full of? Dynamic running backs and tight ends. So linebackers, and I believe this since honestly, for I got around the Niners and saw Willis and Bowman, it's like if you have a good middle linebacker, let alone two of them, you can. If you have two good linebackers, your defense is good because they account for like let's just conservatively say 25, 28 tackles. Some games like 35, 40. 40 would be high, but low 30s. They can pressure the quarterback because they can blitz. They can cover the running back behind the line of scrimmage, which a lot of teams, wheel routes, and that's a huge part of the game. And now with tight ends going down the seam, if I can cover that guy, it's a huge point of difference. So I would say linebacker is not as undervalued as it was. Fred Warner makes a lot of money. Roquan makes a lot of money. Zach Bond just got paid. A ton of other guys have been paid. So I would say safety would be the one because guards are making a ton. Trey Smith just got franchised. He makes $23 million. Hell, centers make decent money if you're good. So I think it's safety. Question for the pod. Are you an early riser? What type of fitness training do you do? Good question. It depends on time of year. I would say the summer, 7-ish, 7:30, depending on what's going on. The season, which training camp I wouldn't even count. Like the actual season, I'm up late. Like my little brother, for example, gets up at like 5:30. He also goes to bed at like 9. During the season, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, especially, for half the football season, I'm on Pacific Standard Time, but then it kicks up. So we're on Mountain Time. Sometimes 3 days a week, I'm not going to bed till like midnight. So I'm one of those people. Like I don't really operate off like 4 or 5 hours sleep. I do need 6, 7. So maybe during that time, I get up 7:38. I would say sometimes after Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, and Thursday Night Football, and then during the week. Kind of depends on the time of year. Usually between 6:15 and 6:45. I would say if I go to bed at a normal time, usually go to my coffee maker, get a double shot of espresso, come look at the market, bank account, internet, slam that coffee, drink some water, maybe take the dog for a walk, then usually go to the gym within like an hour of taking that double shot of espresso. And then just my day kind of goes on from there. So it's pretty time related in terms of if I'm getting up super early or just kind of I need some sleep because I can't when I'm tired. It's just hard for me to podcast. I mean, on it because my brain doesn't work, and I was like that in the NFL. I just needed some sleep. I have a lot of respect for guys that don't need much sleep. It's a life hack. If you don't need much life sleep, and that's something that like you can function and your brain works on way less than 8 hours, you can dominate in society. It's a huge point of difference. I do not have that. I don't need like 8 exactly, but I need more 6 or 7 than 4 or 5. Some people just don't need much sleep. I wanted to open and discuss about the UFC. My girlfriend really was okay. She put me on it about 5 years ago, and I've loved it ever since. I don't. Girlfriend likes it. That's seems like a keeper. For starters, it's something super competitive and entertaining to watch during the summer when not much stuff is going on. Also, the mentality shared between football and the UFC fighters are quite similar. It's you and the man across from you. They don't like you, and you don't like them. If you ask me, a hospital ball over the middle is more dangerous than anything in the UFC, considering you can control your own destiny. It's one Saturday night and a match and a card. You won't be disappointed. Again, I've watched the UFC. I just, I guess I just don't build, nights or events like some of you guys. Like I don't look forward to them unless it's something that transcends, right? If you tell me that like when Conor McGregor was fighting, and I'm like this with boxing. If Mike Tyson's fighting Jake Paul or Floyd Mayweather's fighting Pacquiao, like I have FOMO in terms of enormous events that I know that I can't miss. That aren't football, golf, the World Series, the NBA Finals, shit like that, March Madness, right? Stuff that aren't off the beaten path. If I know that like I should be paying attention to this, I'm gonna pay attention. If I know a lot of people are watching. If you tell me Conor McGregor is gonna box Jake Paul, like I'm going to watch. I'm that type of consumer when it comes to fighting. But if you just give me a random card, like I paid attention to the Sugar Sean guy, dude with the purple pink hair. Why? Because he was Scottsdale. And I remember this guy told me that he knew him. He trained at this place. I went to CrossFit. I'm like, okay, I'll pay attention to this. So if there's not like a personal connection, it's just harder for me to get into. Like I said, I have nothing against the violence. I'm pro violence. I just I only have so much time. My wife doesn't like it either, so it's like if she was into it, I'd probably watch it more. You have to when you watch as much sports as me, you have to pick and choose. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna give this up because the trump card I have, even with golf, I mean, we got a 6 months a year. I got golf on the TV Thursday through Sunday, and then from which she's cool with. I mean, NFL Sundays are a really big deal in my home, but I've really got her into college football. We watch a lot of football, like most of you. I mean, football is on. If there's a game on, it's on three TVs in the house. Okay, last question. Who do you think is under more pressure to win immediately? Ben Johnson, the Bears, or Liam Coen and the Jags? That's not even a question. The Bears, it's a hard job, like a lot of the big jobs in the NFL, because of the market size, because of the pressure, because of how many fans you have. Obviously, there's pressure in Jacksonville because of what they did. I'd argue that pressure is as much on the GM as it is on the coach. And there's just not as much pressure in Jacksonville. Not really debatable. you know, it's just the pressure in Chicago is really, really difficult. And Eberflus was completely over his head and got embarrassed. Ben Johnson is clearly a more talented coach than Eberflus, but being a head coach is a lot different than being a position coach or coordinator. And the hype behind Caleb Williams, like let's face it, there's still a lot of hype and unknown about Caleb Williams. Based on what we've seen, like Trevor Lawrence isn't good. He's just kind of meh, kind of average. I think most people agree. Like, yeah, he's kind of whatever. There's not really much pressure behind coaching Trevor Lawrence because most people don't think he's any good. There's a lot of pressure behind coaching Caleb Williams, who many people thought was like an all-time great prospect. And the best part about football, just like any sport, but the power of football, a lot of hype comes behind these guys, right? Because years in college, like Cooper Flag, ton of hype, played 1 year. You know, is he the greatest thing since sliced bread? Maybe. I'm sure he's probably going to be pretty good. Looked damn good when I watched him. But if you tell me he makes two All Stars instead of 10, believable. If you tell me he make 10, kind of believable too. I don't know. Football, you never know. Ever know. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the best prospect since Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning. I think he's average as the day is long. I actually thought he was. I'm not trying to do hindsight. He was a little overrated in college. Would have taken him one as well. But I just thought, like, based on the hype, like, comparing him to Andrew Luck, I thought was laughable. Especially when he's like, yeah, I don't even like football that much. Now, in fairness, Andrew Luck, after some injuries, retired at like 30, but so maybe they got more in common than you think. But Andrew Luck was, you cannot argue. When Andrew Luck played, he was good, was excellent. I mean, for 3 straight years, took the team that won 2 games, immediately the playoffs, 3 straight years, they're in the championship game. So I would say the Bears by a country mile, the pressure. And it's not like he's going to get fired or anything, but it would be if they went 7-10, it would be a massive story. It would be a massive story. If the Jags win 6 or 7 games, no one really cares. They make the playoffs, they're a big story. They're winning games, they're a big story. But if they're under 500, like no one's talking about them. No one's paying attention. Travis Hunter is kind of a big offseason story. If the team's bad, we're not talking about Travis Hunter. It's just not going to happen. Like no one cares how many snaps he gets on defense. It might be a throwaway at the end of shows. Appreciate the questions. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great weekend.